All right, here we are. We are on the week before Holy Week, and I can't believe how fast the time goes. I know for all of us, we are engaging in different ways, but we have really traveled a lot in a short amount of time into some really deep topics. And as we're thinking about disrupting power last week, the part that I want to name as we enter into cultivating healthy power this week is that we all do this in different ways. And this is really important to know. We all have our own unique parts to play. And so there's not one way. There's our unique way that I believe we can listen for God's prompting on what's our part. And it's usually in a variety of contexts. And we don't have to be all things in all ways. And we don't have to do it like our neighbor or like our pastor or like our kid. We can do it our way. The most important thing is I do believe we need to do it. And that's our call as followers of Jesus and people of faith. And so on disrupting power, that is really pushing against the current power systems. Cultivating this week is what we're going to talk about. And that is cultivating healthy power. And we don't have a lot of great examples for this. But one of the things that I love about the Jesus story is he uses so many examples that are related to cultivating soil, ground, earth, growing, seeds, plants, air, sky, nurture. All of those things, all of those examples are really kind of the embodied practice of creating something different and nurturing and cultivating healthy power. And like everything, I've been mentioning this all the weeks, it takes practice. We don't just wake up one day and start making something new. We do it through intention and small practices that then lead to more intentional ways of moving together. And I also do always believe that were the ways of Jesus. It was these things, the radical ideas that he pushed out about love and compassion and care and justice and equity were not things that we could all master. And actually, a lot of the ways that he taught them were fairly confusing. But what we do know to be true is that if we can do some of them and keep doing some of them, they become a little bit easier to do. And then more of them can be present in our lives, and we become more whole, and we become more reflection of the ways of Jesus, which were always about being countercultural and disrupting hierarchical oppressive power that kept people bound. And so our role was not to just have this be something that was about our future in heaven. It was actually about creating the kingdom of God here and now, that heaven on earth was more possible. Fully possible? No. More possible? Yes. And that comes through cultivation. And so this week, some of the ideas in here are 3 W's that I really love, and they are we could cultivate more with. And that is less doing things to or for people, but actually with people. And that there was an equity, there was a mutuality, there was a giving and receiving. With is a core principle for cultivating healthy power. The other W is webs, and this idea of all being interconnected, and that everything does not have to have a direct order to it. And this is part of Western culture. It's certainly part of Christian culture and hierarchy and adopting those systems, but that we could create webs of connection and webs of safety nets for people. We could create webs of support, and that all of our groups and organizations didn't have to look like somebody's on top and then there's lines underneath. It can look a lot more like a table and interconnectedness with people living out who they're meant to be and bringing their full gifts to the table. Along with that, and it's completely in line, is wisdom. And wisdom that comes from other teachers, other than just the ones that we're used to. And this is where indigenous wisdom, for generations upon generations upon generations, that we tried to topple. And it still is so powerful because it can't be toppled, because the deepest kind of wisdom cannot be destroyed. And so indigenous wisdom, and that is that more connection to the earth, to a healthier, more sustainable way of moving and living and leading together. That sort of wisdom is wisdom that I do believe will help us as our example. And so any indigenous leader that is leading in this space will help us so much break out of some of the mindsets that we have from unhealthy Christian culture and really rethink ways to cultivate something that is far healthier and far more sustainable and far more reflective of the ways of Jesus without directly using that language. Alongside that, there's so much creativity that needs to be cultivated and just popping out of limitations. And the same minds that got us into the issues are not going to get us out. And so we are going to need a creativity that's going to take a lot of courage. And also in this week is just exploring a little bit about living systems and just that our hierarchical systems of pressure, dominate, force are just not going to work anymore. It might seem like they're working even right now, but they're not sustainable. And they do so much harm to the people underneath it. And that is precisely what Jesus was calling out. And so living systems are far more committed to cycles of nurture and cycle, recognizing that things change and evolve and grow, which is related to transformation and healing. And so cultivating healthy power is going to take a lot of practice. There are some examples this particular week, and I think the challenge to all of us is, how are we cultivating healthier power? What does that look like? What does that feel like? How has it been for us to try and do that and to lean on we can be people who really cultivate more with more wisdom, more webs, and more living systems that are very creative and flexible and always, always changing.